Okay, so now we have our walls, and as much as possible, we want to have full lengths of walls. So this is one wall, this is one wall. We don't break those walls up into sections because when we're doing doors and windows, they insert into those walls. So again, in our building shell menu, we can see under our walls, there's both doors and windows. They operate very similarly. And if you click on your door tool, you can see the menu options available at the top. So as soon as I clicked on my door menu, my icon, my cursor turns into a little door, and I can go and click and place it wherever I want, and I can see when I hover over a wall, it highlights in red, and that means it's going to then insert that door in that wall. So I can just click, and in doing so, it places the door in the wall, but I can then specify swing direction. So in this case, I want to bring it out like that. Okay, so I just move my cursor around until I get the direction that I want, and then click, and that sets the position and the swing orientation. So up until this point, I am using a custom door, but I can, and when you first use this option though, it will be an unstyled door. If I look in my object info palette, I can see that it says door in wall. If it just says door, then if I take this out of the wall, I can see that it says door. So I always want to make sure that if it doesn't cut out the wall and show it the way you see it now, then you want to check and make sure that it says door and wall. And if it just says door, you need to click and drag it back into your wall so it inserts properly. Okay, and when I did that this time, when I clicked and dragged it, moved it out and moved it back in, it changed the swing direction. And that's fine because up in my object info palette, I can go, oh, I want to flip. I want to flip. And now there's 4, when we flip it, it cycles through, it can flip horizontally, and it can flip vertically, and then it can flip horizontally again, and then vertically again. So there's 4 positions that it can be in. We're going to need to be aware of that for when we can visually see that when we are looking at a simple swing door like this. But when we're dealing with a pocket or a slider or a bifold, we're not going to see it because there's just a horizontal orientation. We're not necessarily going to see the flipping in the other. We're only going to see it change twice, but you still need to cycle through all those positions. Okay, so I can see there's my class, my layer, my insertion, my break, and then we get into styled. Oh, and this is an unstyled door. So here, kind of very similar to our wall styles, our doors have styles. In this case, it's an unstyled door. I can also, same as replacing our wall styles, we can replace our door styles. I can also, because this is an unstyled door, if I scroll down, you can see how huge this object info palette is for a door and all the settings that are available in it. So and you can see some are grayed out and some are solid that you can modify. Some of them, sometimes what you have to do is by checking, say, I'm including vision panels, and then that makes those fields editable. I can also, and you can see that there's everything from general leaf size. So when we're talking about leaf size and doors, when it says a 3 foot by 6'8" door, that means that leaf, that panel of a door is 3 feet by 6'8". Then we still need our jambs and our window frames, and then we still need space for a rough opening. So that is only a small component of the whole door setup, but that is what we reference when we're saying our door is 3 foot wide by 6'8". So 6'8" is head height. So when we're aligning all our doors and windows, they're all going to have 6'8", unless we have transoms. And then our windows are going to be at that same head height. So I can see that I can change all the leaf size. I can change what I'm referencing. I can change my top shape. Some of these are going to be applicable in plan view. Some of these are going to be more applicable in 3D view. I can change the ones that we're going to change often in our object info palette are the flipping, the style, our sizes, our configuration. So right now I have a swing simple.
Right.
If I click on that drop down menu, I can just specify it to be an opening, and I'll zoom in out, and it cuts a space into that wall. That wall is still one continuous length.
Oh.
It just has an opening in that location.
Oh wait, no, never mind. That one has a door.
Yeah. And so in this case,
It's like these.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
So I can do I can do an opening, I can do a cased opening as well.
Right.
So if that's going to have a trim around that opening, we want to draw it like that. So I did a swing simple. There's swing simple, pocket simple, bifold simple, and with those three, those are one door, but we can bipart them as well. So French doors are swing bipart. Pocket doors, I could do a pocket simple. I can do a pocket bipart, so that's on the plans. Bifold simple, bifold bipart. Double acting are like restaurant doors that open in both, move in both directions. Overhead are going to be our sliders. Overhead are going to be our garage door, and complex swing. In this case, you can change the settings, but it has one portion fixed and one operable.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one of the settings we're going to manipulate and change most frequently. Now the thing is, when we show a bifold, for example, now we have to be aware of the open angle. So as you can see, this door is fully open, right? So when we go into another one that we're going to want to change in the visualization is the angle. So it shows that it's open at 90 degrees. So all of this is in reference to kind of a swing simple. Okay, so as with this swing simple fully open, it's open at 90 degrees, right? If I change my open angle to 0, it's going to be closed because it's open angle 0. If I change this open angle to 45, it then opens at a 45 degree angle. Now, if we think of this, okay, fully open is 90, fully half open is 45, and fully closed is 0. Now, if we change the configuration, so even though it doesn't open in the same way, those open angles are still applicable. So I can see that because I left my open angle at 45, my bifold now looks the way I want it to look. So half open, it's 45, fully open, it's 90, and then closed, it's going to be 0. So at an open angle of 45, we can best see, like when it's closed like this, we can't fully understand what's going on. But at 45, we can definitely tell that that's a bifold door. So those are the ones you're going to want to change most, but you can add way more detail. Like even lights, so side lights are the windows on the sides. Thresholds, you can include that in your drawings. Transoms, trim, I can include interior trim, and I can include exterior trim. I can specify what the dimensions of that trim are. I can include a lintel, and specify that information as well. And then, so all these settings are also in our settings for this door.
Right.
So if I click on the settings, it brings up this door setting dialog box. Now this is just for the door settings of this door that I've created that is selected in my object info palette. Those settings are also, if I go into my door tool, they are up in my little wrench and pencil, which is my door tool preferences. That also opens up the door preferences dialog box.
Okay.
That now with that determines the settings. We specify the settings that we want for all the doors that we then create after applying these settings. The settings in the object info palette are just applicable to that one door. Okay, so but they're the same settings. General, we have our width, our height, our configuration. All those are right there. We can see them in top plan preview, and we can also see them in 3D preview. So if we want to see a round door, we can see in plan it doesn't change, in 3D it does, right? So you can see that there's segment, there's Gothic, Gate, like there's so many that you can play with. And these are all customizable, right?
Right.
Now, this is just for unstyled doors. We can also click on this Use Style drop-down menu, and it brings us into a very large Vectorworks library of custom doors. So we can see that we get into some brand name doors. So Lowen, Anderson, Marvin, and these are all manufacturer specific. So they're to those manufactured settings, and you can see that some doors that are available and they're preset to function in the way that they come.
Right.
Here's some modern ones from Velfac. So we can use these ones. The thing is, if we use these doors, then they apply the settings. Oh, right. Don't have these doors. They apply the settings that are with that custom door style. Okay, so I'm going to double click on this one. This one I can use. I can hit OK. I can insert this one over here. Now, when we're inserting, there's ways of snapping. Okay, so right now I can see that my cursor is in the midpoint of this door that I'm inserting. I can hover my cursor over the wall and it says object and it highlights that object. Now there's going to be, I actually want to center this door on this space. If I actually hover over the wall on the bottom side, it gives me a snapping point and it says midpoint of this section of wall. So you can even see how it has it highlighted from this point to this point. So it's not the entire wall. Because I'm on the inside face, I can then snap to that midpoint and I can click and I've snapped that midpoint. So I can also, if I want to go on the exterior and there's going to be a midpoint for, it breaks up the wall sections and it will give me the midpoint for that too. I can easily, actually I want this one to be 5 feet, so I change my dimensions and I can easily, it's going to expand from that insertion point, which in this case was the center.
Right. Okay.
Now, this is a style door. If I go into, well, it says it's an unstyled door. If, for instance, I want to, it does say unstyled, so, but if it doesn't, if I viewed a style door, under this style menu, there's convert to unstyled so that I can modify all those settings, or I can replace it with another styled door. So by doing that, replace. Okay, so that was all placing our doors with our standard insertion mode. So if I look up on my mode menus, I can
Right.
see that it's the default is this standard insertion mode. But we also have an offset insertion mode. So sometimes, and if we're looking at our plans that we're working from, we know the dimensions of where those doors and windows are from a point of reference. So what I can do is I'm going to actually go back to an unstyled door. I'll just do hinged. Okay, now I can use the U key to toggle, or I can select my offset insertion mode. So see how my cursor changes.
Right.
Because that first click we're going to press is our point of reference. Okay, so say I wanted it 6 inches from my outside of sheathing. So I'm going to click here. That's going to be my first point, and see, then once I've pressed that first point, now I get my door cursor, okay? And now I can see that it's asking for a length, so this data field pops up. We'll do a length of 1 foot, and we want it 0, and I'm going to hit enter. And now what's happening is it's inserting it, it's 1 foot, but it's from the center of the door, right? So sometimes, and I can see it's up this custom align object origin mode. So we can also, and then moving my cursor, I took it out of that. So I can tab in 1 foot and angle 0, but I can toggle with my O key, and now I'm changing where I'm specifying, inserting that door to. So there I can see now I want it to be that from 1 foot from the corner of the sheathing to the outside of my door, and I can hit enter. Now what happens with that placed the door, but I still have my swing configuration to specify.
Right.
So I might want it to open in that direction, but I can see that it's going to place it over there, right? So I want it in this location, so I can pick either of those orientations. And then what I can do, once I press my cursor or click, it brings up this enter offset. So basically it's a checking box for you. It's saying, okay, you said you wanted it 1 foot from this reference point to this insertion point, and you hit okay. Sometimes that won't have the value that you specified, in which case you have the opportunity to then change it before it inserts the door. I can hit OK, and there's my door, and it's 1 foot from the edge of the sheathing to the left side of my door in this case. I don't want that swing configuration, so I can just go, oh, I want to flip it. And now I have it exactly how I want it, and I have it a specific distance from a specific location. Okay, so this is the standard insertion mode, this is the offset insertion mode. These are the object alignment, so if it's from the center, the left, or the right. We have our drop-down menu to pick our styles, and then we have our door preferences, which is the wrench and the pencil. Now, this little icon here, you'll also notice that it's in our selection tool. So this is where it's a wall insertion mode. So if I go into my door, if I click on this, then I can easily, you can see as I hover over my wall, it's not highlighting that wall. And if I click over the wall and I think it's in there, and I place my wall or my door, it actually says door, and it doesn't cut out my wall because it's not, I've disabled this wall insertion mode. So I can say I've done that. I can use my selection tool. I can, in this case, my wall insertion mode is enabled. So I should be able to just hover it back down and drop it in. So you can do that after you've created it and modifying your objects. You can use your wall insertion mode, or in your door tool when you're first inserting your objects. Most of the time, you're going to want to do your wall insertion mode.
Okay.
Door settings, I'm going to go into my door tool preferences. So sometimes with our doors, there's general settings. I'm going to convert this to an unstyled because then I can make these changes. For instance, here's all our menu options. So I can click on each of these menus. And for instance, here's a transom and I can specify the sash width, depth, mullions, glazing thickness, but it's not going to show up, like say, because I haven't gone over here and turned it on. So that's not exactly how I want it to look.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see that I have to, there in some menu, we turn on options, and then the settings are in a different menu. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Do you want to give doors a try?